Professor Ezekiel Gebisa to present its openings.
Excellencies and colleagues, if it were within human, I would have programmed my brain to take me on a flight of fancy across the seas in my dreams. Among the original, this is such as this are attributed to the Creator, of making things happen. Perhaps some cosmic forces that occasioned the convergence of fate and destiny for me to be here among you today. Mark wasn't even in my dreams, but I am humbled by the experience, and I will remain very grateful for that honor that was accorded to me. And as a token of my gratitude for that, I just brought a book that I published about 10 years ago. I think we traveled here yesterday. Someone told me that we don't have it. So I apologize for not bringing many books, but I just wanted to give you this as a token of my gratitude. Okay, the last time I was here in Gimbi was in maybe I shouldn't say. Yeah, because at the end of this session, probably people will swarm me to ask me how old I am. So simply let me say that it was a long time ago. And at that time, Gimbi was a dusty, sleepy town, little town that had no prospect of growth because it was perched on a narrow ridge that falls precipitously on both sides. It was no longer a booming activity. But today, the road we traveled on to get here, the rising buildings in the town, and the amenities such as this fancy hotel, and above all, the people beaming with hope and anticipation, all testify that Gimbi is a microcosm of the socio-economic transformation that is currently underway in the country and in this region. So it's therefore fitting to hold this national symposium in Gimbi town, which is a symbol, which symbolizes the economic transformation that is underway in this country. Now, what accounts for Ethiopia's turnaround, which Gimbi symbolizes? In the early 1990s, Ethiopia bottomed out economically. Famine and negative economic growth had devastated human lives. The country's GDP had shrunk. Investment dried up. Government services disappeared. Infrastructure deteriorated, and political tension ensued. There was nowhere else to go for the country but up. One can cite microeconomic policies and the restructuring of the economy and the politics of the country as the major factors that account for the turnaround. Today, macroeconomic indicators show that Ethiopia is shaking out of its poverty trap. Nevertheless, it must be noted that sustainable economic expansion is not possible in a level of density is a critical factor. No country has ever developed without demographic transition or demographic optimum. Birth rate is high, a vibrant youth population is burgeoning, and this human concentration inevitably leads to productivity gains and expanding opportunities for trade and economic growth. In addition to demographic transition, a growing middle class is necessary. This has far more important implication for economic growth than governance and policy choices. In the last decade, very profitable investments have been made in telecommunications, construction, and infrastructure expansion to cater to this growing consumer market. Ethiopia's agriculture has found market in growing cities. Investment in agriculture is becoming an ever more profitable investment opportunity, attracting sizable domestic and foreign direct investment. Businesses are taking off. Experienced, educated, and cosmopolitan young Ethiopians are creating businesses around the country. It seems to me Ethiopia is experiencing growth that is more structural, more internally produced, and thus far more solid than one based simply on exports of raw materials, as is the case with other African countries with comparable rate of economic growth. Now, this doesn't mean that everything is hunky-dory. Structural vulnerabilities and other risks remain. Among these, first, Ethiopia's takeover may not have enough resources to complete its journey. In other words, Ethiopia's development path is going to come up against a global environmental crisis. The country's population will be the first collateral victims of an environmental degradation. Second, Ethiopia's transformation faces unique challenges that other demographic transitions did not have to confront at similar stages of development or economic growth. First, national divisions could be an obstacle to economic integration. Ethnic cleavages could be a fertile ground for ethnic entrepreneurs. New identities are emerging, particularly religious identities, and the resultant fragmentation could present an obstacle to socio-economic growth and transformation. Third, the increase in the country's population size and density is also taking place at a very moment when humankind is discovering the limited nature of Earth's other resources. Cope with growth and density isn't necessarily available to Ethiopia. For instance, Ethiopia's demographic cauldron does not have the safety valve of distant migration. That is to say, overpopulation have always found a escape. This might not be available to Ethiopia. These are critical issues that pose serious danger. Violence isn't an inevitable outcome, but the danger is clear. That is why the focus on unity in diversity is right on the mark. To be sure, the quest for unity, for the sake of unity, is nebulous. Diversity that is maintained for the sake of diversity can be amorphous. The two realities of unity and diversity do not exist in a dialectical relationship that resolves itself on its own. It requires work. Unity in diversity requires, as the French philosopher and writer Albert Camus said, creating dangerously. Solution to the age-old problem of national integration in Ethiopia. The structure is in place, but it is not functioning, to use Aristotle's phrase, according to its design. It needs always refining, readjusting, fine-tuning, and zealously guarding against danger. It is my humble opinion that this symposium will deliberate in the spirit of Albert Camus to produce solutions by creating dangerously, by fusing together forces such as unity and diversity that are not friends to each other, that are actually opposite, but fusing the diversity to resolve problems at a higher level of consciousness. The federal structure needs to be preserved while accelerating the speed of socio-economic transition that's already underway, and that also creates or constitutes tension. The second issue is the role of educators in creating dangers and forging unity within diversity. Here I'd like to borrow a rhetorical device from one of my favorites, Dr. Neil deGrasse Tyson, director of the Hayden Planetarium in New York City, an astrophysicist, but a prolific writer who had written 30 books about science, about the outer space for the general reader. Came home while I was listening to a national public radio describing a picture of the Cassini spacecraft that turned its camera inward into the galaxy, into the Milky Way galaxy, and took a picture like a departing from the Milky Way galaxy. That is a place that no man has ever gone. But that picture was telling a picture, was conveying a message about our place in the universe. The picture is just amazing. It's just breathtaking. What you see is, from the outer edges of the galaxy, the Cassini picture took the inner part of the Milky Way galaxy. What you see is, under the rings of Saturn was a blue of the universe. The Earth is really a very insignificant place. So if we have a cosmic perspective, we don't see differences when we see other human beings. What we see is our common humanity. It is our role for educators to show this cosmic perspective to our students so that they can see only human beings, but not difference. But we recognize difference. That is there, we're not denying it. But we have a far more important common humanity than the things or the attributes that are earthly challenges. The challenge of unity in diversity for socio-economic growth will indeed be a cakewalk. As educators, let's find a way to help our students and the public adopt this cosmic perspective to seek always wide-angle solutions and apply them to building our own future. I wish this gathering success in its endeavors. Thank you so much.